has not been easy, but we're on the road to recovery. Our tourism and hospitality partners were hit especially hard, but we're all learning that by being agile and working together, we can successfully adapt.
Coming up, airport recovery. New numbers show Indianapolis International Airport outpacing competitors in the race to recovery from the pandemic. Airport Authority Executive Director Mario Rodriguez joins us with what's fueling increasing traffic and what it means for the Indiana economy. Innovate Within, a statewide high school pitch competition celebrating record numbers. Indiana Secretary of Commerce Brad Chambers and Started Up Foundation CEO Don Wettrick explain how the competition is building a new generation of Hoosier entrepreneurs. Plus,
I'm Mary Rachel Rudman outside an iconic former Indiana high school basketball gym, once the very heart and soul of the small town Seymour community, now in danger of demolition. A tour of the historic landmark with a former star and U.S. Congressman. That story coming up.
Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gerry Dick. Some encouraging news just in this week on the recovery in the airline industry, specifically at Indianapolis International Airport. More than 7.1 million passengers traveled through the airport in 2021, a 75% increase over the pandemic-plagued 2020. Now, importantly, the numbers show Indianapolis outpacing peer airports in Milwaukee, Columbus, and Pittsburgh. What do the numbers signal for the Indiana economy, and could they point to more flight options at Indianapolis International? For some answers, I'm pleased as always to be joined by Airport Authority Executive Director Mario Rodriguez. Mario, welcome to the show.
Gary, it's always great to be with you.
Big number, 7.1 million passengers in 2021, a huge increase, of course, over the pandemic-plagued 2020. Is that a signal that things are beginning to get back to those pre-pandemic levels?
Oh, absolutely. You're going to see a slow recovery, but let's change it a little bit because the industry is transforming right now. We're in a transformative period of the industry. And you can see this. Business travel is down, leisure travel is up. Before we had 45% of our traffic was business. Now it's 18% of our traffic. And our numbers are still going up because there's a pent-up demand for leisure traffic. And it's just a transformative period in our industry.
Yeah, those are stunning numbers when it comes to business travel and shifting to that leisure travel. You know, I think you can look at air travel as an indicator of the vibrancy, the health of an economy. And when you look at the recovery taking place in Indianapolis, I think it's interesting to note that Indy is outpacing peer airports in places like Milwaukee and Columbus and Pittsburgh.
And it's very simple because we're a reflection of how the economy is doing in Indianapolis and Indiana. Indiana is doing very well compared to our peers. People have money. People want to travel for leisure. There's still a large component, although smaller, of business travel. And let's not minimize business. Business is extremely important, but COVID has transformed businesses from having to travel in most cases to being remote in some cases. So it changes the dynamic a little bit.
Yeah, Mario, as you look at that transformation to more leisure travel, how do you see that playing out here in Indianapolis? I thought it was interesting to note the potential combination of Frontier and Spirit Airlines, leisure airlines really combining into one big operation.
Oh, absolutely. Who would have thought? 10 years ago, who would have thought that Spirit and Frontier would have started intimating about merger, making the 5th largest airline in the United States. It's a huge airline, and it's only an ultra low cost carrier, basically focusing in on leisure destinations and leisure travel. That shows how much the pandemic has transformed our industry, and it continues to transform. And I've been looking at it to simply put, in our industry, a decade was compressed into 2 years.
Yeah.
So a decade of change was compressed into 2 years. You see all the leisure carriers benefiting from that change and expanding their market share, and all the legacy carriers at Deltas, United, Americans, their market share has been reduced. Although they still have a huge market share, their market share has been reduced. And COVID has driven a lot of this change, and driven a lot of the changes on the, I interrupted, driven a lot of the changes on the cargo also.
Yeah. I want to ask you about cargo. One more on the leisure, though. As you look at the tea leaves, a lot of new nonstops have come to Indianapolis International over the past couple of years. Can we anticipate more options, more flights at the airport?
Oh, absolutely. We had, in 2019, we had 45 nonstop destinations. Today, we have 43 nonstop destinations and more on their way. Now, they're different destinations. You're going to see that the weight of the nonstops has shifted towards sun and fun locations, towards leisure locations. Right now, for example, we have 14 nonstop destinations to Florida.
Wow.
We used to have 10.
Yeah, it's a good time to go there, too. Hey,
absolutely, a very good time to go there.
Yeah, hey, I want to ask you about cargo, because that's another big story. All-time record cargo traffic at Indianapolis International. FedEx, I'm sure, leading the way on that.
Oh, but that shows the change. The pandemic has changed how consumers access the products and services they want. And right now, our cargo has increased by 32%. Any increase of 32% is unheard of in our industry, and it increased in a matter of 2 years. Yeah.
Lots happening at Indianapolis International Airport. Really great to hear that recovery story taking place in a big way. Mario Rodriguez, the Executive Director of the Airport Authority. Thanks as always. We'll see you soon.
Always a pleasure, Gary.
All right. Well, when we think of airplanes, we think of speed, precision, power, aerodynamics, similar to race cars, and what captured the imagination of global racing icon Mario Andretti as a young boy. And I'm very excited to kick off season 2 of the Business and Beyond podcast with Mario, one of the greatest drivers in the history of motorsports.
The crowd beginning to pay its tribute to Andretti, the young man who came to this country at the age of 14 as an immigrant from Italy.
Is taking the checkered flag at the 1969 Indy 500, the only driver to win Indy, Daytona, and the Formula One championship. Mario talked about immigrating from Italy to the U.S., how he fell in love with racing, and what it was like to go up against A.J. Foyt back in the early days when they were flying around dirt tracks in the 60s. Check it out here. Very little protection in the cockpit, pedal to the metal.
He wasn't really too happy with me, but it was at the Hoosier 100 there, which was really the dirt track race of the season. You know, I beat him on the last lap, and in the victory lane, he said that his brake pedal broke. And then I said, well, I never touched the brakes. You know, so that kind of got him lit up a little bit.
Much more. Some great stories with racing legend Mario Andretti, including immigrating to America and how a Clark Gable movie from the 50s helped him discover and dream about competing in the Indianapolis 500. To check it out, go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com and click on the subscribe tab. Growing the next generation of Hoosier entrepreneurs, learning the tricks of the trade before they get to college. Details on Innovate Within's high school pitch competition, how it is motivating students and growing big time statewide. It's time to go inside innovation. Well, the statewide Innovate Within pitch competition, it's the largest of its kind for high school students in the entire country and is designed to give young innovators the chance to see problems as opportunities. This year's competition celebrating a record number of applicants with more than 2,000 students applying compared to just 815 last year. And the Indiana Economic Development Corporation prioritizing innovation and entrepreneurship. And for more on the Innovate Within pitch competition, pleased to welcome back to the show Indiana Secretary of Commerce Brad Chambers and the founder and CEO of the Started Up Foundation, Don Wettrick. And gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, Brad, I want to start with you. You are very busy, traveling a lot. Your schedule quite hectic, but I know you want to take time to talk about this Innovate Within pitch competition because it's important. It's one of the focus areas for the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. Why is it so important?
Well, I'm excited to be here and to celebrate Don's success and his student success and Indiana's success as a result of his focus on entrepreneurship. As you know, our 5E strategy, one of the important pillars of that is entrepreneurship. And in entrepreneurship, the ecosystem in Indiana is good, but we need to fertilize it and we need to make it even better. And there's no better way to do that than having a guy with Don's background and history and enthusiasm for young entrepreneurs, high school and school-age entrepreneurs that turn into long-term entrepreneurs in our state. So this is a priority, and that's why I'm here, because these entrepreneurs, these young entrepreneurs, are so important.
Yep. And Don, talk about the success. As we were talking off camera, you say the application pool has basically doubled in each of the now 5 years. Last year, 800 plus. It's a pretty good number. This year, it's over 2,000. What's fueling that?
Really, it's a lot of times it's the prize package, it's the student word of mouth, it's the teachers that are getting involved. But yeah, we've won from 100 to 200, 200 to 400, 400 to 850, and this year we're around 2,300. And then we have, I think, 16 universities that are providing scholarships, everything from round one all the way up to state finals. We have a few colleges that are providing full rides this year.
Wow.
It's those kind of incentives plus the opportunity to travel. And we even have now an alumni association where we're getting them plugged into international opportunities. So we're trying to surpass those expectations with not just a one-time pitch speech competition, but really get them plugged into the economy and find great mentors and find great support throughout the state.
Yeah, and I know you're seeing a lot of really cool ideas and young people with a lot of energy and ideas, enthusiasm. It's got to get you fired up about maybe that next generation of entrepreneurship in Indiana.
At times it makes you feel insecure on how smart some of these students are. I remember when Governor Holcomb came out last year, he couldn't stop saying, wait, how old are you? To a lot of these students. But I think it's a testament to how great our state education system is, and then how much of a focus they have on innovation. A lot of these students, our message is see problems as opportunities. And our students are finding great opportunities from anything that an app can help, to an event, to a service, to a product. They're wanting to create real value for our citizens.
Yeah, Brad, people say, hey, this started out as an idea, kind of a nice thing to do, but it's turned into something of real value. As you go out and pitch Indiana to potential investors and companies, does this kind of thing, in a way, make a statement about kind of the ecosystem, the tech, the entrepreneurial ecosystem that exists in Indiana?
Oh, absolutely.
Gosh. Yes. Yeah. Go ahead, Don. Go ahead.
Well, absolutely, in the sense that we've gotten so much support. When you go on to round two, you have to meet with your small business development center. We have so many mentors throughout the state. We have great companies that are based here that, investors are now starting to get involved. As a matter of fact, one of our teams last year just got a venture-backed deal at age 18.
Wow.
So I think it's that support and that's that kind of momentum that we're seeing. And again, I've got to get credit where credit's due. This started off with a lot of support and a lot of attention from the IEDC, and it's been able to grow and blossom now with the Small Business Development Center, and there are 16 universities that want to help out as well. Yeah,
Brad, you get the Secretary of Commerce here. I have to ask you, heading into 2022, I know innovation, entrepreneurship, technology, real focus areas. Give us a thumbnail description, your view, if you will, on the climate right now for investment in that space, how you view the year ahead, 2022, when it comes to innovation in the state of Indiana.
I'm so enthusiastic every day. I'm working with CEOs and entrepreneurs and innovators and hearing their stories and hearing the progress they're making. Our innovation ecosystem in Indiana, and now with Don's work in the entrepreneurship ecosystem, it is gaining unbelievable momentum. I'm so excited about what we're doing right now for the state of Indiana. These entrepreneurs, these young entrepreneurs, they stick around. I mean, I was one, right? At 15, right. I started our business, and I'm still 38 years later going strong. And so this is super important to our economy. Yeah, very good point, keeping those that talent in Indiana. Brad Chambers, Indiana Secretary of Commerce. Don Wettrick, the president and CEO of the Started Up Foundation. Innovate Within continues to be a successful endeavor. Thank you both for joining us. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Well, the clock is winding down on what was once a Southern Indiana hoops haven for Hoosier basketball stars, including a former Indiana congressman. Mary Rachel Redmond with what's next for Seymour's historic Shields Memorial Gym. Well, with the state tournament just around the corner, this week's Endangered Indiana will evoke a little nostalgia for some of us older folks. The Shields Memorial Gymnasium in Jackson County, nothing short of a relic, a humble reminder of the Hoosier hysteria of old. A time so incredible in small-town Indiana, even Hollywood decided to make a movie about it, and people have been talking about it ever since. Around Indiana reporter Mary Rachel Redmond has more from Seymour.
It just sits there, empty. The more time that passes, the less and less residents know or even care what this abandoned building is or once was.
It's been here for a long time, and as you look around, you realize the history of what all happened here, you know, the games.
Right back with it, and this one's going to go down to the wire.
Shields Memorial Gym is an iconic Indiana throwback. A nod to what some might call the Gilded Era of Hoosier hysteria.
1,241,000 spectators have thrilled to Hoosierland's favorite sport.
This was really the lifeblood of this community in terms of recreation and just entertainment for small-town Indiana.
A time when young, old, and in between flocked to high school gyms by the hundreds and in some cases even thousands for the social event of the week.
When I was playing ball here, as a kid, I thought the whole world was watching us. The whole town was involved in our basketball team.
And no one knows what it was like to lace them up here better than this guy.
I remember the most. That's where I hit those 2 free throws to tie the game up.
Barron Hill will be at the line with 2.
Most Hoosiers identify Barron Hill as a U.S. congressman, but in Jackson County, Barron Hill is a basketball legend.
There's a shot put up by Barron Hill. It's bouncing good.
The students sat over here, and the old-timers sat on the other side.
And according to Hill, not too much here has changed.
I mean, it's a little dirtier now, and it has graffiti on the walls, and it doesn't have that pristine look that it had when I was playing basketball, but it's still the same gym. The fundamentals are all still here in place.
The final game played at Shields Memorial Gym was in 1970, and believe it or not, still here in this gym, the original hardwood floors over 50 years ago.
In 1970, our basketball team was undefeated that year, second ranked in the state of Indiana. We played the final game here in this gymnasium, so a lot of memories. If we can do something to save this place, I think it would be great not only for nostalgic guys like me, but for the community as a whole, because everybody can understand that there is a connection here with everybody in our community. And preserving this place preserves the connection that we have to this place. And that's the reason why it's so important for communities. Yes, I did serve in Congress, and I traveled all over the world, but there's no place like home, and there's no place like the memories that I have here.
Also making headlines around Indiana this week, a $50 million 7-story building that will include 76 apartments, parking, and commercial space. It's coming to Fort Wayne thanks to the founder of musical instrument retailer Sweetwater. Chuck Surak and his wife Lisa are partnering with the city to build the Pearl, just west of the Bradley Boutique Hotel. The city says Surak Enterprises will invest up to $7 million in improving the public infrastructure and is working with Design Collaborative on the design. Build it and they will come, and they are in record numbers. We'll explain why the boom in non-residential construction is paying big dividends for steel workers in Northeast Indiana. Well, a red-hot construction market is fueling job growth in Northeast Indiana. Fort Wayne-based Steel Dynamics says it plans to hire up to 200 additional workers at its Northeast Indiana operations. The company reported a record profit last year, $3.2 billion, up from $551 million the previous year. Senior VP Chris Graham says much of that is due to the unprecedented demand for steel in non-residential construction projects.
They would normally have a 3 to 4 month backlog of work. That would be the normal cycle time for a project. The entire industry is out over a year. So we are quoting work for next summer, which is beyond anything any of us have seen in that space.
Graham says a recently opened mill in Texas and a $231 million expansion of the company's Terre Haute facility are byproducts of that growth, adding the company's culture and reputation as an employer is helping attract workers.
Our welders aren't necessarily going to make what a doctor makes, but they're going to be the best paid welder. We want them to be the best paid welder. So then we have the opportunity to attract the welder from a company that maybe they've gone as high as they can go. And it's a formula we use to invest in our employees, to take the long view. That's why you don't lay off, and you get loyalty, you get expertise. They come up with great ideas and make us who we are, and we share back the rewards. And it's a really virtuous cycle that companies can get themselves into.
Well, in addition to Fort Wayne, Steel Dynamics operates facilities in Butler, New Haven, and Columbia City. The company says there are job openings at all of those facilities. Ahead on our next half hour, another record-breaking year for funding at the IU School of Medicine and the major impact it is having on health care, the state's economy, and jobs. Well, for the 6th straight year, the Indiana University School of Medicine is celebrating a record-breaking year of research funding, bringing in $5 million more than the previous year. Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta has more. Kylie.
Thank you, Gary. The National Institutes of Health awarded researchers at the IU School of Medicine more than $217 million in 2021, which raises the bar once again on the school's all-time record. Of the top 20 research projects throughout the U.S. that earned the most funding last year, 8 departments at the IU School of Medicine appear on the list. Dr. Tatiana Faroud is the Executive Associate Dean for Research Affairs at the IU School of Medicine, and she joins me now to tell us more. Hi, Dr. Faroud. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Kylie. It's really nice to be here.
Thanks for being here. Let's talk about the funding. We mentioned it comes from the NIH. What's the significance of that money from the NIH versus other funding bodies?
So glad to explain that. So the NIH, National Institutes of Health, is a government agency, and it's really the premier government agency in terms of funding. So for an investigator at Indiana University School of Medicine to receive funding from them, what that means they've done is they've written a proposal for their research. It's been reviewed by their peers, individuals who are leaders in the country, and it's been deemed to be in the top 10, maybe 20% of all the proposals that NIH received to be funded. So it's really a testament to the quality of the research that we have here at Indiana University School of Medicine to have that much grant funding.
Okay, very good. Let's talk about how this funding impacts the community outside of the university. $200 million. How does that impact Indiana's business landscape in particular?
It's a great question. So it's hard sometimes to put numbers on it. So there's been a report that was done around economic activity in 2020, and they estimated for every $1 million in NIH funding, that creates 13 jobs in Indiana and about $2.7 million in economic activity. So our $217 million of grant funding has created about 3,800 jobs in the potentially worldwide or countrywide, and 2,800 within the state of Indiana. And then if you think about what those individuals then use that money to do, things that they go buy because they've got these jobs, it's about $600 million annually in economic activity in Indiana.
All right, big numbers, a large ripple effect. Of the research projects at IU that received the most funding, 4 of the top 5 connect to Alzheimer's disease. So talk about IU's strength in Alzheimer's research and how this funding is really going to help grow those projects.
So let me say grow the projects and also help Hoosiers, which I think is an incredibly important link that I want to make sure to make. So you're right, we have great strength in terms of our funding in the area of Alzheimer's disease. We are ranked 4th from funding for NIA. The grants that we have that are really key to that is, the first is around individuals with what's called early onset Alzheimer's disease. These are people who develop Alzheimer's between the ages of 40 and 65, so in the prime of their life. This is a study trying to understand the causes and also trying to understand how we can use that information to develop improved treatment so that we could potentially spare those individuals a devastating disease. Linked to that, another one of those 4 grants is called Treat AD. That's to develop new treatments for Alzheimer's disease. An important grant also, that one is led by Alan Palkowitz, the previous one by Dr. Liana Pastelova. The third one is called Model AD, and it's about animal models trying to understand how can we evaluate the drugs and treatments that we're thinking about first in an animal model before we can then move to human studies. And then the fourth is actually a study that I lead that is looking at how can we create resources for the nation around samples, and that's biological samples. If you'll let me, I'd like to tell you what the 5th grant is. It's not an Alzheimer's disease, but it's incredibly important for the state of Indiana. It's what's called a Clinical and Translational Science Institute. And the reason I want to mention it is it's a collaboration between Indiana University, Purdue University, and Notre Dame. So it's a statewide grant that supports research throughout our state and has really tremendous impact across our institutions.
And if you could just touch on another ranking, the School of Medicine ranked 3rd in the U.S. for funding from the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism. What's the significance of that for Indiana in particular?
Oh, it's a great question. So if you think about the challenges we have around addiction, so addiction is a variety. Can it be, of course, alcohol, can be drug, it can be other substances. So NIAAA, the one you just referred to, is specifically focused on alcohol, but there's so much what we call comorbidity. Individuals who may have trouble with alcohol use often will have other addictions. So studying and focusing around alcohol allows you to treat a variety and consider a variety of addictions. We have particular strengths in that area. First, we have an alcohol research center, so focused on a variety of different studies, grant funded from the NIH. We also have studies looking at what are the risk factors that lead to alcoholism. We also have a group of studies looking at liver damage due to alcohol. And then we also have studies related to the study of individuals who've been exposed to alcohol prenatally. So our work with the NIAAA, this agency focused on alcohol abuse, really covers the whole lifespan, from individual exposed in utero all the way to why do they develop alcohol dependence, what are the problems that result from that, and really trying to look at approaches, how can we reduce and lead to interventions to reduce the impact of alcohol in our community.
All right, I know IU ranked very high nationally due to the work of researchers like yourself, Dr. Frood. Thanks for being on the show today and giving us some of the details.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Always glad to talk about our research. Thank you.
Gerry, back to you.
All right, Kylie, thank you. Well, a $300 million mixed-use development is coming to Hendricks County. Hobbs Station will be built on 125 acres on the east end of Plainfield near the US 40 and Perry Road. It is being developed by Isaac Bambouche, the founder and president of Indianapolis-based New City Development. The project expected to take 5 to 10 years to complete and include residential, retail, and restaurant space, and will also offer logistics and office space. During construction, it is expected to create about 1,200 jobs, and then later, over time, 12,000 permanent jobs once complete. The project's name draws inspiration from the Hobbs family, which owned the Hobbs Nursery, once the state's oldest and largest plant nursery near that development. Bambouche says the area's character and rich history made it the perfect place for the project.
And so you mix that also with the fact that you have the Vandalia rail line running through, and it speaks again to the commerce side of Plainfield. And there's so much, more history there in terms of even U.S. presidents visiting Plainfield, and that resulting in the improvement of transportation, lines in Indiana. So, I mean, there's just so much there, and it kind of wedged into this town that most folks just think of as kind of this old farm town, but there's been actually so much that's occurred because of Plainfield, and that Indiana as a whole can be proud of because of Plainfield.
Construction on the first phase of Hobbs Station is to begin this summer. Another big project also coming to Hendricks County in Brownsburg, a $100 million project planned near Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park. Garmong Development says the Commerce Park at Brownsburg Raceway will be located on nearly 50 acres near the auto racing facility. The Commerce Park, designed to promote research and development and manufacturing around the auto sports industry. Garmong says it expects the project to attract more than $100 million in new economic development and capital investment. Garmong did not provide an estimated timeline for construction. It's time now for Eye on Education. One of the biggest challenges facing community colleges, how to break through the clutter and establish their brand as a legitimate higher education alternative for adult learners. It takes money and a strategy to do it. So the Lumina Foundation, based here in Indianapolis, tackling the challenge head on through a national initiative called the $1 Million Community College Campaign. And for more, pleased to be joined by two key figures behind the effort, Shauna Davis and Mary Lappin. And ladies, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Shauna, I want to start with you and what this initiative is all about. When you put $1 million on something, I think that grabs people's attention. Mm-hmm. But the idea really focused on marketing and getting messaging out for these community colleges, really a unique approach.
Absolutely. And the $1 million was intentional to get the attention, but it's really about helping more Americans get access to education and training beyond high school. That's what our foundation is all about. And that includes not only degrees, but certificates, skills training, certification. So we really wanted to create this challenge to help community colleges better position their brand in the marketplace to grab the attention of those adults who really could benefit from attending those institutions.
Yeah, and again, a lot of money on the line here. 9 colleges will receive $100,000 each, and then one winner, if you will, community college, will receive $1 million for that marketing effort. Is one of the big challenges here, and the reason you came up with this, is that challenge that community college face in connecting with adult learners typically, or it could be students in high school, so a different group of folks than traditional four-year institutions.
We find that in the college conversation, there's a lot of focus on children, teenagers coming directly out of high school, not a lot of focus on adult students. And when you look at more than a third of today's learners are actually between the ages of 22 and 40, there needs to be more focus on adults who've either never been to college, or maybe they started, life got in the way, and they didn't finish, and they want to come back and finish some sort of credential to help them in the job market.
Yeah, and really an interesting number. I saw 40% of undergraduates in the United States attend community colleges, so a lot of students certainly at the community college level. Mary, as you look at this initiative and how it's going to work, what do you want to see these community colleges do or put together in terms of marketing and messaging programs?
Yeah, we're looking for community colleges to create strategies that build their brands, build their community reputations, and then develop marketing efforts that support the enrollment of adult students in their community.
Yeah. Do you sense, I mean, I've got to imagine you're getting a lot of attention, a lot of interest, I should say, from community colleges around the country, and I know you want a wide swath of those community colleges, including those systems that may really cater to rural areas throughout Indiana and throughout the country.
Yeah, we're encouraging all community colleges across the country to apply, large and small. Our application questions have been really intentional, so we can learn about the communities that our community colleges fit in. And we're looking for great ideas. Great ideas come from all sorts of places, and we're looking forward to seeing those.
Yeah. Sean, as you look at really the ultimately the impact that this might have, we do so many stories about the talent pipeline and the need to get more people in that pipeline at all levels. Do you see ultimately the impact of the fallout from this initiative being that those talent pipelines are going to be enriched through the community college system?
We certainly hope so. And our real purpose with this is really so that people understand that community colleges serve all types of students. And if you want to do something quickly, or if you want a pathway to a university, you can do that too. So we want people to know that their community colleges are very dynamic institutions, and they can serve people with all kinds of education goals.
Yeah, great point. Okay, Mary, so give us the lowdown in terms of application process. I know is underway now. How do you see this timeline, and then when you'll be ultimately selecting those schools who win the money?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, applications are open now. We are accepting them through March 15th. So to apply, we encourage folks to go to luminafoundation.org/challenge. We're also hosting 2 informational webinars for any interested community college to learn more. Those will be next week, and again, more information on that website. And we will be ultimately announcing our winners this August of 2022.
All right, another unique and very important initiative from Indianapolis-based Lumina Foundation. Mary Lappin is Strategy Officer for Participation at Lumina. Shauna Davis is Strategy Director and Community College Participation at Lumina as well. Ladies, thank you both. We look forward to seeing how this initiative rolls out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, when we come back, more with my podcast with racing legend Mario Andretti. And the University of Southern Indiana making a big move, its athletics program moving to Division I, what it means for the future of sports for the Screaming Eagles. That's when we come back. Well, Tamika Catchings announced this week that she is stepping down from her roles as General Manager and Vice President of Basketball Operations for the Indiana Fever. The WNBA Hall of Famer says it's time to take a well-earned rest, prioritize her family, philanthropy, and other passions. Catchings was drafted 3rd overall by the Fever in 2001. She retired in 2016 and a year later joined the Fever as Director of Player Programs and Franchise Development. The organization says Catchings will continue in her volunteer role as co-chair for the 2024 NBA All-Star Board of Directors. Well, in Indiana, there will soon be 11 NCAA Division I universities, including 2 in Evansville. Bill Benner has more in this week's Inside Indiana Sports. Bill.
Gary, thanks. And on February 7th, the University of Southern Indiana announced a unanimous Board of Trustees approval to apply to the NCAA for membership in Division I, joining the University of Evansville in D1. And the Screaming Eagles athletics teams will step up as members of the Ohio Valley Conference, pending the NCAA's expected approval. And joining us today to discuss USI's move is its Director of Athletics, John Mark Hall. And John Mark, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Well, an exciting announcement, obviously, for USI. I know you've been in discussions and going along with the Board of Trustees study for a couple of years, and now it's come to fruition. Exciting time for USI.
It is. We're really excited about it. You know, it's something that we've talked about just casually, for a while, but we've never really done a study. We've never really just, put our heads into it that much and really, dug into the details. But obviously we started doing that this fall, put a 25-person exploratory committee together on campus with faculty members, students, coaches, alums, and, finished our reporting up in December and handed it off to the Board of Trustees. And as you mentioned, they voted unanimously a few weeks ago for us to make the transition, and we're really excited about it.
You've been there a long time, 20 years as the athletic director, a founding member. The USI was a founding member of the Great Lakes Valley Conference, had great success. You've won NCAA Division II national championships, the GLVC All Sports Trophy. So you're doing great in Division II. Kind of the whys behind this move up to D1.
Sure, it's a really fair question, a good question. And, you know, we've had great success in the GLVC, the Great Lakes Valley Conference, which is based in Indianapolis. But not only have we had great success, we've made great friendships. We've developed unbelievable relationships with colleagues. The commissioner, Jim Namovich, is a really good commissioner, a great leader, a great friend of mine. But, you know, some point in time, you know, the maturation of an institution, the maturation of university, you have to look at things. And, you know, when Division I conferences and institutions started calling us a little bit this past summer about, do we have any interest in making the move to Division I, we decided to, you know, again, as I mentioned, look into it. And I think, you know, I've been here, as you said, since 1995. In my estimation, we have Division I faculty, we have Division I academic programs. You know, everything we do is, in my estimation, is at Division I level. I think we felt like it's time for us to do the same in athletics. And again, we'll miss the GLVC in Division II, but really excited about the jump.
John Mark, obviously this comes with financial ramifications. I know you have some pledges already in. You're going to conduct a capital campaign. Talk about the financial aspect and also the facilities that you currently have and anything you might need to do as you move to D1.
Sure. You know, our budget's around $6.5 million right now. And I think over the 4-year process, the transitional process to Division I, you know, we need to get that up to, you know, approximately 12 million. Again, as time goes and through our process, we'll see if that number sticks, if it can go down a little bit and move up. But yeah, so we'll have to, you know, to really get after it, we need to raise more money. We'll have a student athletic fee that will help us with the cost. But we hope that our community will really help us and step up. And I think, you know, early indications is that'll be the case. People are excited here. We do have a pledge here of $1.5 million to help us kind of get things going. And we'll have a capital campaign, as you said. We have a beautiful new arena that's a couple years old. And then beside that arena, we have a brand new classroom facility that houses our athletic training room, our weight room, and a lot of extras for our student athletes. We're really excited. The state of Indiana has been great to our institution. And again, I think we're ready from a facility side to make the jump.
And John Mark, as we wrap up quickly, the Ohio Valley Conference, a great geographical fit for USI.
It does, really. In many ways, it'll cut our travel down. You know, GLVC is, again, a great conference, but we were driving to Kansas City and Chicago, and you know, we won't have as many long trips in the Ohio Valley Conference. So the geography made a lot of sense, and the institutions we're aligned with, you know, they look like us. They believe in the same you know, core values that we believe in, and so yeah, really excited to be a member of the Ohio Valley Conference.
Well, John Mark Hall, the athletic director at University of Southern Indiana, moving to Division I. Congratulations, and we look forward to your continued success. Thanks for being on the program.
I appreciate you having me.
All right, and Gerry, back to you.
All right, Bill, changing times in Evansville, to be sure. Well, one of the most talented athletes to ever get behind the wheel of a race car is my guest on the next Business and Beyond podcast as we kick off our second season in a big way, a conversation with the legendary Mario Andretti. Mario raced in the Indianapolis 500 29 times. He won it once in 1969, but came close on a number of other years. He's the only driver to ever win Indy, the Daytona 500, and the Formula One World Championship. Mario says his connection to Indy started as a young boy in Italy with he and his twin brother Aldo and a Clark Gable movie.
For American racers, I mean, that's our Mecca. That's like a shrine for us. And I mean, look back at the rich tradition that it holds, and it's because of Indianapolis that there's actually a championship. Because everything started with just one race, and then it formed a championship, which becomes a national championship. The dream of every young lad that wants to be a race driver, you know, you'd like to win that and then win the championship. It should be the other way around, you know. Right. But I always said, you know, winning Indy is worth a championship. I learned about Indianapolis when I was about 11 years old in Italy, actually through watching a movie To Please a Lady, which was actually was traduced in Italian, and the title in Italy was Indianapolis. The next time that I was really impressed by that was in '54, 14 years of age, when Bill Vukovich won, and he won at the average of just over 120 miles an hour, which in kilometers, it's over 200 kilometers per hour. So us as kids, oh my God, I mean, you never see speed like that. So those were the impressive numbers, you know, that made me realize it, and it got me curious about what's Indianapolis. Of course, as soon when we came to the States, I soon found out, because the first time that we visited Indianapolis, 3 years after we arrived here in 1958, I saw the race. I was sitting in turn 4, and an uncle of ours took us there, and but we already had been racing for a year in stock cars. So that's it, you know, and then I figured someday I want to be here. And that's how the saga goes. You know, you just keep dreaming, keep setting ambitious goals for yourself, and you keep working harder and harder to try to reach these goals.
Racing icon Mario Andretti, my first guest on Season 2 of the Business and Beyond podcast. To check it out, just go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com and click on the subscribe tab. Up next, how Indiana restaurants are working to recoup federal money from the Pandemic Relief Fund. It is just one of the stories our partners at the IBJ are working on this week. We'll break it all down when we come back. Well, banking as a service is gaining traction, and Fishers-based First Internet Bank is getting into the game. Plus, Hoosier restaurants looking to replenish money from the Pandemic Relief Fund. Just a sampling of the stories our partners at the IBJ are working on this week, and we get more, as we do every week, from editor Leslie Weidenbender. Leslie, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Gary.
Yeah, so First Internet Bank, they've got a lot going on. Beautiful brand new headquarters in downtown Fishers. Now they're getting into banking as a service. So their software as a service, SaaS. So I guess this is BaaS, banking as a service?
That's exactly right. And so the way this works is that there are all these companies out there, we call them financial technical firms or fintechs, that are trying to provide services in a new way. But sometimes it's better for them to have an actual bank as their partner. So First Internet and a lot of other banks are seeing real opportunities here to provide partnerships and provide the kind of federally insured programs that you can only get if you're working with a real bank.
Yeah. So Dave Becker and the crew there are still innovating. I remember when they launched that bank, a lot of people wondered what in the heck an internet bank was, and certainly
absolutely. And you know, it's kind of funny now. We almost think of them as a traditional bank trying to help these fintechs out.
Yeah, good point. You know, crime, a big issue here in Indianapolis and across the country. And I know you're going to have a story this weekend, talk about Indianapolis really upping the amount of money available up for grabs in the Community Crime Prevention Grant Program.
Yeah, the city is going to quintuple the amount of money that's available, and they're doing that with money from the federal stimulus program. The goal is to push out more money into preventative anti-violence programs in the hopes that that will help the city curb the crime rate. But some people are wondering whether the programs are really working. And so the city is going to be taking a little bit closer look at that as they distribute additional money.
Yeah, you talk about federal relief, rescue money. Certainly restaurants were impacted so severely by the pandemic. And I know you're going to have a piece this week. A number of restaurants around the country, but also here in Indiana, did not receive the money they applied for, right? And they're trying to get that.
Yeah, so the feds made $30 billion specifically available for restaurants and bars and caterers. Now, this is in addition to the PPP loans that we read so much about. But the money didn't go very far. Only about a third of the companies and restaurants nationally that applied actually got funding. There's still a huge number out there that would like Congress to approve some additional money.
All right, those just some of the stories coming up in the IBJ this weekend. Leslie Weidenbender reporting from the IBJ newsroom. Leslie, as always, thanks for joining us. Hope you have a great weekend.
Thanks so much. You too, Gary.
All right. Well, TechPoint says the nominees for this year's MIRA Awards include 76 companies that employ more than 52,000 Hoosiers, as well as more than a dozen entrepreneurs from the state's tech sector. Earlier this week, TechPoint unveiled the list of nominees for the 23rd annual MIRA Awards, honoring the best in tech in Indiana. And for the first time since the COVID-19 pandemic began, the state's nonprofit tech accelerator plans to return to an in-person gala April 23 at the JW Marriott in downtown Indianapolis. The nominees selected by 52 independent judges. For a look at all of the MIRA Award nominees, just go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com. And I will be right back after this. Stay with us. That's all the time we have for this week. Thanks for joining us. I'm Gerry Dick. We'll see you next week.